Good morning and welcome to the regular Board of County Commissioners meeting. Today is Tuesday, November 18th, and we do begin each of our meetings with an invocation. This morning we have Bernadette Wilkie from Radiant Church. We invite you to stand and join us.
Good morning, everyone. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, you said in Psalm 118, verse 24, "This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it." Lord, this morning we look to you for the strength, calm assurance, and joy necessary to conquer the problems we face. We thank you for your grace to serve the divine purposes you have given to each of us. We rely on your direction, your protection, and your affection for us all as we engage in the challenges brought before us. We ask for the discernment to know what to speak to and what to walk past. We ask for your peace that does not rattle under pressure. We don't want to miss what you have prepared for us, so we ask you to lead, and we will follow. Help us to walk in joy, endure with strength, advance what is good, and end what is evil. We pray your blessing on all our government workers, businesses, law enforcement, first responders, and especially our schools. Protect our children. Bring them instruction that brings true wisdom and nourishes the souls of our students. Help each of us to respond out of compassion. Help us lift up the discouraged, bring hope to the hopeless, truth to the searching, and kindness to everyone. Finally, we pray for unity and cooperation with a common vision for the future of our city, our state, and our county. We ask all these things in your most holy name. Amen.
Commissioner Weissong, if you'd lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Item 3.
Item number 3 is staff emergency items, and I'm unaware of any staff emergency items today.
Item 4.
Item number 4 is changes, postponements, and notice of the next meeting. I'm aware of one change to today's agenda. Item number 7 will be considered after item number 15, and the next meeting will be Tuesday, December 9th at 9:00 a.m.
Item 5.
Item number 5 is the consent calendar, including items 5A through 5R4.
Okay, is there anyone here who wishes to speak on an item that is on the consent calendar? And seeing no one coming forward in the audience and no one online, I'll bring it up here to commissioners for any comments or motion.
Motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. One more opportunity for any comments. Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Weissong.
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson.
Aye.
Commissioner Applegate.
Aye.
Vice Chair Williams.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That passes 5-0. Item 6.
Item number 6 is the Thanksgiving Day Proclamation 2025. Holly Williams, Vice Chair, Board of County Commissioners.
Good morning. I'd like to move the following proclamation, Thanksgiving Day Proclamation 2025. Whereas in 1621, after surviving the previous winter in Plymouth, Massachusetts, the Pilgrims alongside Native Americans celebrated a feast to give thanks for a good harvest, and whereas George Washington proclaimed the first National Day of Thanksgiving in 1789 to recognize the role of Providence in creating the new United States and the new federal Constitution. And whereas Abraham Lincoln revived the tradition during the Civil War, and since that time our citizens have set aside Thanksgiving Day to express thanks for the bounty of the blessings we enjoy. And Whereas the citizens of El Paso County recognize the significance of gathering in unity to express gratitude for the many blessings we enjoy. And whereas we acknowledge the guiding hand of divine providence in our lives, just as the Pilgrims did when they celebrated their first Thanksgiving, and as the motto on Colorado's state seal proclaims, nil sine numine, nothing without providence. And whereas the United States of America, with its foundation in liberty and justice, continues to stand as a testament to the enduring values that we celebrate, much like the principles of self-governance and community spirit exhibited by the Pilgrims at Plymouth. And whereas our community, bound by shared values and a spirit of cooperation, has thrived through the collective efforts of its people, much in the same way the early settlers of our nation worked together to build a new life on these shores. Now, therefore, the Board of County Commissioners of El Paso County, Colorado, hereby declare November 27, 2025 as Thanksgiving Day in our county, and calls upon all residents to express gratitude for the freedoms we possess, the relationships we cherish, and the faith that guides us, while also reaching out to support those in need, just as the early settlers shared their harvest. Done this 18th day of November 2025 at Colorado Springs, Colorado. The Board of County Commissioners of El Paso County, Colorado, Carrie Geithner, Chair, Holly Williams, Vice Chair, Corey Applegate, Member, Lauren Nelson, Member, Bill Weissong, Member, and attested to by Steve Schleicher, County Clerk and Recorder.
Second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded, and we do have some guests here today. Come on up. And just if you'll introduce yourself for the record.
Yes. My name is Travis Williams, and I'm a proud member of El Paso County and serve as president and CEO of Springs Rescue Mission. Thank you, commissioners. It is an honor to be here this morning. We're still 9 days away from Thanksgiving, but I can feel the season settling in. So I'm going to keep this brief. Thanksgiving has always been more than a holiday. It's a reminder of who we can be when gratitude and generosity shape our lives. That first Thanksgiving wasn't about abundance. It was about welcome. People who didn't have to care for one another decided to. They shared what they had, and in doing so, they strengthened community. That idea still matters today. Across our county, many neighbors carry burdens most of us never see. Loneliness, instability, health challenges, and the quiet ache of feeling disconnected from community life. The visible needs often get our attention, but the deeper wound is often isolation, the sense of being unseen. Thanksgiving speaks directly into that. It calls us back to the table. It calls us to notice the person in front of us. And it calls us to remember a simple truth, that every person has God-given worth, because the Lord is the maker of us all. That truth reshapes how we see our neighbors and how we show up for one another. One of the things I appreciate about El Paso County is that compassion here is voluntary, but it's real. Families open their homes, churches step in, businesses give back, neighbors choose to care, not because they're required to, but because they want this to be a community where hope multiplies. That's why this proclamation matters. It names the kind of county we aspire to be, one where we see people recognize their worth and care in ways that strengthen our whole community. My hope this Thanksgiving is simple, that we slow down long enough to see one another, that we resist isolation by choosing connection, and that gratitude becomes action, small human moments of connection that remind someone that they matter. And in doing so, it reminds us that we all matter. Thank you for your leadership, and may this Thanksgiving remind us of the community we are becoming, one neighbor at a time.
Thank you so much. With that, I will bring it up here to commissioners for any comments. Commissioner Wysong.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to add, we all have something to be thankful for. And I just hope that we can find that kernel, and just like a seed, nurture it and let it grow.
Commissioner Applegate.
Thank you. I'm just thankful I woke up this morning. Thankful that I live in the greatest nation the world's ever seen, in the greatest state, and this wonderful town. I mean, I love it that I wake up and Pikes Peak's in my backyard, and so it really is. I mean, we are blessed. I mean, we truly are blessed living here in this area. So,
Commissioner Nelson.
At church on Sunday, the message started off with the hot debate of whether you should be able to celebrate Christmas and start decorating for Christmas before Thanksgiving. And the individual giving the message just believes very strongly that she's correct in that you can celebrate Christmas before Thanksgiving. And I know Commissioner Geithner is one of those that likes to start listening to Christmas music early on. And but her rationale was that every day of the year is where we can have an attitude of gratitude, and just the importance of the struggles that we face, that we instead fix our thoughts and our gaze on what we can be thankful for, and that it can help, lengthen your lifespan and the joy that you find in everyday life. And so I know just the last few days I've been trying to practice that myself, that when I find myself dwelling on something that's difficult, I instead try and think of something to be grateful for in that situation. And so I appreciate the sentiment shared this morning about neighbors stepping up to help serve and provide. And that's my personal view as a commissioner, that government should remain small and that we look to community to help be the provider rather than it being forced through government taking taxes and providing, but that it can be based on individual conviction, and that's where we can see needs met. And so I love the rescue missions model, that they are, the majority of their revenue comes through charity. And I think that's just such a strong testament to El Paso County, and that we're unique across the nation in this model that we have. And so very proud to live in this community and hope to be able to continue to encourage that.
And as is our tradition, I'll let Commissioner Williams finish us up here. So I'll add a few comments. Yes, I am one of those people who starts listening to Christmas music as soon as I can, sometimes even before Halloween. I just so enjoy the season, although it's been a little difficult this year with no snow. It's just so strange. But I lived in Germany for a few years, and that's probably when it started, because there is not a Thanksgiving in Germany. And so things started a lot earlier. And so it really shaped how I thought about things and how the holidays worked for me. But one thing that I have always said is that there is absolutely room to be thankful all year as well. So I appreciate that message. But also in the Christmas season, I am thankful every day for the sacrifice of Jesus Christ. So I can celebrate those things simultaneously, and I do, and really enjoy this season. But I really also, as Commissioner Nelson said, really appreciate the model of Springs Rescue Mission, and having that brought in today, and just thinking about what it means to help others, that it's not solely the job of government. I've always believed it's the job of individuals. And one thing that I think is interesting is we tend to focus on those who are benefiting from that generosity, that are benefiting from the giving, but it benefits the giver. And I think that's one of the things that when we talk about limited government and why I'm so passionate about that topic, because it's not just about the person who's being given, it's about the giver and what it does for all of us when we become members of our community who give to others and the joy that it brings for all of us. So I am so grateful for Travis being here today and for reminding us of that and how we can help our friends and neighbors in need, and also what a time this is to reach out to our community members, that it truly is about finding connection, I think, with our community and being grateful for all that we have. And not forgetting that there are those amongst us who need us. It's not always just about what we need, but it's about what those around us need as well. So grateful for this proclamation. I'm really looking forward to a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I hope that you all have the same. And if you have not gotten your turkey yet, I'm telling you there's a shortage of turkeys or something, because it was a really tough thing to find this year to get the right size turkey. So don't delay. Don't be those people looking for turkey the day before Thanksgiving. All right, and with that, I'll turn it over to Commissioner Williams.
Yes, so to bring this full circle, I was going to say that, yes, Commissioner Applegate, I'm glad you woke up this morning, and you probably woke up at 6:30, which would be a normal time to wake up. I woke up at 3:30, 4:30, 5:30, 6:15, 6:30, and 6:45. So it's hard to be thankful when you're not sleeping well. So I did want to say, though, as I was trying to think of things I was thankful for in what has been a rougher week than I expected, I am truly thankful for all of our El Paso County employees. They do a fantastic job. I am also thankful that we have celebrated this year the 250th anniversary of the Navy and the Marines. Did we celebrate the Army? And we celebrated the Army too. I'm also thankful that as my husband and I were walking yesterday, I could almost sing all 3 songs, at least get the, the simple stuff. I do think I can sing almost all of the Air Force song, and make sure I get almost all the words on that one. So those are all, I'm so thankful for our military community. I was looking in the paper yesterday and saw this big, huge destroyer in the middle off of the coast of Venezuela. I'm thankful that we're fighting the drug war and keeping drugs out of the hands of our children. And, but most importantly, as I think Thanksgiving gets overlooked a little bit with Christmas. By the way, Jingle Bells is a Thanksgiving song, not a Christmas song. And I do like to listen to Christmas music before Thanksgiving. But as we get older, it seems like it's taking 3 weeks to put up our Christmas decorations. And I used to mock the person who had 60 different nativity scenes, but I'm up to about 12 or 15. And in one of them, Mary's missing. And in another one, Joseph is missing. We do have several that the cattle are lowing and the sheep are all present. And so I'm wondering where some of my figures have disappeared to. But most of all, I'm thankful starting at Thanksgiving all the way to Christmas, for what the Savior has done for me and for the fact that we have that opportunity of redemption and getting back to heaven. I'm thankful that Bernadette's here to give us a prayer this morning because that helped calm my soul. So happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Okay, and with that, we are ready for a vote, and we'll begin with Commissioner Weissong.
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson.
Aye.
Commissioner Applegate.
Aye.
Vice Chair Williams.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That passes 4-0. We'll take a brief recess for a photograph. I'll call this meeting back to order. And as a reminder, we're going to hear item 7 after item 15. So we will move to item 8.
Item number 8 is comments by elected officials and commissioner liaison reports.
Okay, are there any countywide? I do see our sheriff coming down, so we'll have him speak first.
Good morning, Commission. Thank you, Madam Chair. Listening to the conversations, I did have something I was going to say, but now it's changed. I will tell you, I will add to the great debate. Most people up there know my wife. So Christmas season begins when the last trick-or-treater steps off our porch. The trees start going up the next morning and the music begins. And so our nativity has been out for a couple weeks already. So we're ahead of the game. And I love it. But we're here, as we're talking about Thanksgiving and holiday season and being with loved ones, I want to talk about the side that we see, the sheriff's office, and the not so pleasant side of the holiday season. And typically that comes with being irresponsible while behind the wheel. When I took office in 23, I had 1 full-time traffic deputy and a sergeant for the entire El Paso County. Knowing that wasn't enough, we worked on staffing, and right now I'm proud to say we have 4 full-time traffic deputies, a sergeant, and a lieutenant who pulls people over more than he probably should. But my patrol staff also, they are traffic deputies as well. And so I want to talk about a staggering statistic. And you see them up there sitting down or standing up. Where'd they go? Oh, there they are. They moved on me. There's my traffic team, front and center. Phenomenal work. Since last Thanksgiving, my team and patrol have issued over 10,000 little reminders that you shouldn't drive carelessly, speed, or drive under the influence with the rest. Over 10,000. That is remarkable. Yes, some people say, well, that's just revenue grabbing. No, it's not. It is a reminder that you're driving irresponsibly, especially during this season when the campaign begins. It'll be tomorrow, or we'll announce it tomorrow. And it is Blackout Wednesday. We have partnered with all local law enforcement here in El Paso County, including the State Patrol. We've partnered with state, and we have taken the lead in this from the state of Colorado. I have a great sergeant, Sergeant Haig. If you please wave your hand, Sarge, for me. He leads the board in the state of Colorado for traffic enforcement. It is incredible, his commitment, the team behind me, their commitment to making sure that our citizens are safe on the road. We want to make sure that we're able to celebrate responsibly, get to your destination, and get home in one piece, and not have a visit to my house at the Pokey, or worse than that, a hospital. So I just want to really brag on my folks behind me and brag on my patrol deputies who've done that work over the last year to ensure that we remind folks to stay safe. And yes, it still continues. El Paso County is still dangerous. We're doing everything we can. We have to remind people. It begins with education. You'll see, especially out there in Falcon, you'll see a wrecked car from a DUI right there in the parking lot to remind students, hey, this is real. This could happen to you. Drive responsibly, and yet it's not enough. So I urge our citizens, I'm pleading with the citizens of El Paso County to enjoy yourself, enjoy the festivities, but be responsible. And we're also going to announce another campaign tomorrow with some partnerships where people can get a reduced fee for Uber, but we'll talk about that later once we hash all that out. But I'm just here to brag about my folks and the great work they're doing to keep El Paso County safe, Commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Great reminders to everyone to be safe and particularly not to drink and drive in particular. Slow down, take your time, but also that's an easy one, right? That we should all be able to do. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much for being here and for your statements today. Do we have any other countywide elected officials that are here that would like to speak at this time? I don't see anyone in the room. And no one online, so we will go ahead and bring it up here, beginning with Commissioner Weissong.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And first of all, thank you, Sheriff, and to the deputies. Last week was PPACG and Park Board meetings. Intended an interesting event Friday night through Colorado Springs TOSC, or Trails and Open Space. A little bit of history. Didn't realize that we had quite a history here with the Coral Bluffs fossil beds, which basically filled in a huge gap over the last 66 million years. This week, attended the Mount Carmel dedication to the Honor Bell. And we also have a PPACG legislative session, which will be with all the legislators in this area. Be attending a water quality management group meeting. In Fountain Creek Watershed District, we've got a board meeting and we'll be looking to approve our budget. So, thank you.
Commissioner Nelson.
I just want to correct, last week I said that I had a El Paso County Board of Health meeting. It was actually a Paso County Housing Authority board meeting. I just saw the H and went to health, but I'm still tracking my calendar and going to the right things. And still learning a lot more about that world of the Housing Authority and the trust that they are able to provide funding for first-time home buyers. And the Housing Authority here in El Paso County operates a little differently than other entities across the nation, where we don't actually steward homes, but instead receive applications to help fund some first-time home purchasing for individuals in the community. And so I would encourage you to look into that. It is targeting, the lower income levels of our citizens. And so especially for those that maybe are new to your career as a teacher or law enforcement, those are the individuals we really would like to help support and being able to have home ownership. And so, like I said, I'm still learning a lot about that work, and it's a whole different world. I mean, banking and numbers, and but I'm enjoying digging in and just trying to wrap my head around this different aspect of the commission board and how we serve. And I'm a liaison there, so I'm not a voting member, but I still want to make sure I'm understanding the work that they're doing, so that if the time comes to appoint someone new to the board, I have a good understanding of who I should be bringing to a recommendation. And that's similar with the Community Corrections Board, which has a meeting tomorrow. And so I'll be listening in. I have a little bit of overlap on another meeting, but I just want to give a pitch that if you're interested in serving in our community in such a meaningful way as listening to applications from defendants on requesting to come either out of prison into ComCore or to be deferred, it is really important work. It's hard. You're going to hear some difficult things from, victim statements, but we are looking for members to join that board and help give recommendations. And specifically, I believe the mental health professional slot has been open for quite a while now. So if you know someone in the community in the mental health industry that might be interested in serving, please encourage them to do so. And again, it's just really important work to help consider the safety of our community and also respecting the victims and their families and ensuring that there is justice. So just want to give a pitch there that we're still looking for people to fill that board. I also will be attending the Airport Advisory Commission board meeting tomorrow afternoon. It's the first time I'll be able to do that since I've joined this organization, because I usually have a Region 16 Opioid Abatement Council meeting that meets the same time. So I'm looking forward to learning more about how the airport and all of the partners that are involved in stewarding our air traffic and Oh, and then Thursday is our joint appointment committee for the library board of trustees. And we received applications and have been reviewing those. And then we'll be coming together Thursday morning to discuss any potential nominations to appoint someone to the library board of trustees. So a little bit busy these days. Looking forward to some time off next week with Thanksgiving.
Commissioner Applegate.
Thank you. It's been a couple weeks since we've been here. 2 Wednesdays ago, I attended with Commissioner Wysong the Colorado Youth Outdoors. So special shout out for Marty for inviting us to his little banquet dinner, his annual one he does. Last 2 Thursdays ago, I attended the Voices in Focus, our Spacious Skies, and they were doing a presentation, just general survey that the chamber had taken, just kind of getting opinions on just how they continue to just move with the area, you know, how to develop business, how to plan. 2 Fridays ago, I was out in Miami Yoder at Rush High School and for a Veterans Day event. And so special shout out to the Brewers. Thanks for the invite. And I got to speak there for a little bit and I got to hear from a couple of the soldiers. Some of them were stationed at Fort Carson and they were talking about their experience being in the military and everything and what Veterans Day meant to them. And on Saturday, I see our guys up there, Chuck, Vern, thanks for the invite, and Brian for getting that set up. I was on the float for the Veterans Day parade, and that was quite awesome. It was good, and I think we saw a good showing from the community. I think a lot of people showed up, and it was just really awesome that we're just out there to honor our veterans and honor our military in the area. And this last Friday, I was also out again. I found myself at Miami Yoder High School. There was a career days out there, so I got to present to some students, and it was actually really interesting. I kind of come from kind of both sides here within the last year because I was blue collar before this, and then I transitioned to white collar, and so I got to tell the kids about my experiences doing electrical work, being in construction, being in maintenance, and then transitioning kind of to commissioner and sitting behind a desk and answering emails. So, and it was good. I got to meet some awesome kiddos. So they were, and I think a few of them were inspired. So hopefully. And Saturday I attended the Rock the Red Kettle fundraiser for the Salvation Army. So the Salvation Army is getting ready to kick off, and I guess we're going to start seeing bell ringers here soon. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Vice Chair Williams.
Yes. This week I have the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments. Tomorrow we will have a legislative day where we've invited our state representatives and senators over to discuss our priorities for the state legislative session. And that will be, I believe, at 8:30 or 9 in the morning. And that's my one big event this week. Last week on Saturday, we had the opportunity to speak for the Northern El Paso County Homeowners Association. It's always fun. It's always challenging, and we always go over time. A lot of concerns up in that area. But I do want to give a special shout out because I know some of the concerns up in that area are for speeding. And on many of the roads, Furrow, Woodmore, and many of those roads up in northern El Paso County. And of course, there's always Hodgen, which is quite the racetrack. We don't really, just to state, thank you to our patrol deputies, we are not issuing tickets so that we can buy new toasters or because it's a major revenue source. It really isn't. It's out in rural El Paso County. It is just so easy to go fast. Yes, I've nearly been caught. When I saw the sign, I had to slow down about 30 miles an hour. So I'm much more careful now when I drive in Black Forest area. And we only have so many resources to get out there. So we really rely on our citizens to be good citizens, to drive safely. We did point out when the coroner came in and reported this year, one happy event was the deaths from fentanyl were down. The very sad and disappointing event, which really troubles me, is the continued accidents from individuals who are driving unsafely. And if you're trying to get around me because I'm an older driver and I'm not as prepared anymore to make the lane changes and stuff, just don't cut in front of me fast. You never know what's going to happen if you do that. But it's just, we need to be patient. We need to slow down. We need to build the time in. We need to get to work because I really do get tired of getting up in the morning and the first thing I hear is all the accidents. 5 or 6 cars involved in an accident in Falcon last night. That's, people just need to slow down. You'll still get home at the same time, I promise you. And life will be a lot happier, because that's the last thing we want to do is lose a family member or a community member to an accident. So thank you to our deputies for trying to help with that. It's a tough job, and we have a huge county to cover. Thank you.
So I have a few things going on this week. Some of them have already been mentioned, but the Joint Appointment Committee for the Library Board is one of those things that's been mentioned. Looking forward to working to get that filled. I also have a regional building meeting. I'm also attending something kind of fun. There will be a demonstration of the SwissPod Hyperloop in Pueblo on Friday. For those who have tracked some of the business happenings here, SwissPod announced that they would be building their pods and testing them on that Hyperloop track. This is a project that I believe was a winner from a SpaceX competition, if I'm remembering correctly, for trying to come up with innovation in this space. So that will be very exciting. So look forward to seeing what a local company here is doing in that space. I really appreciate the comments from my colleagues about Thanksgiving. Without belaboring that, appreciate our enforcement team that will be out there. As a mom of 2 teenagers and one who is about to officially get his license, it's a constant concern I know that we have about our loved ones when they leave. I know my husband works in Denver, and I get a text pretty much every day just letting me know that he arrived safely. And so I know that it's something that's on our minds when our loved ones head out the door. And just a reminder that they're really, those extra few seconds are not worth the potential of something catastrophic happening. And so just, slow down, take your time. If there's anything that I have been disappointed by, it is when teaching my teenagers to drive, how impatient drivers can be. And I have 5 magnets, student driver magnets on the back of that car, so that everyone's aware and, we make sure that we're safe. But the impatience and what people will do to go around a driver and those things that are happening. So don't forget, we have all kinds of drivers. Commissioner Williams mentioned that we have some older drivers in our community, we have younger drivers in our community, but the roads are for everybody. So we've got to slow down. Remember, people have different abilities, they're at different stages of their lives, and let's do a good job of being a community and taking care of each other. So really appreciate those reminders. It's especially at this time of year, and thank you to all of you for making sure that we are doing what we need to do out there, and having that presence, I know, reminds us all. So thank you. And with that, I think we are on to item 9.
Item number 9 is community service organization reports, and there are none.
Item 10.
Item number 10 is public comment on items not scheduled on the agenda. And Madam Chair, I'm unaware of anyone signing in ahead of time to speak today.
Okay, is there anyone here who would like to speak on an item that is not on the agenda? See no one coming forward and no one online. Item 11.
Item number 11 is the called up consent calendar, and there are no items called up today.
Item 12.
Item number 12 is a resolution approving a tax increment revenue agreement with the Colorado Springs Urban Renewal Authority for the Moreno and Cascade Urban Renewal Plan. Crystal Latier, Executive Director, Economic Development Department, and Nikki Simmons, Chief Financial Officer.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commission. Crystal Latier, Executive Director of Economic Development here at El Paso County. Thank you for the opportunity this morning to touch base on an item on your agenda related to the Moreno and Cascade property and sales tax increment financing request. That request comes from the Colorado Springs Urban Renewal Authority. Just a quick reminder on our thorough and transparent process when El Paso County receives a tax increment financing request. That request is received by the county. We then review that request and the supplemental documentation and create an internal impact report. That impact report is reviewed by an internal impact report committee. That committee is made up of myself, your chief financial officer, the assessor's office, the county engineer, as well as your planning and community development director. We then bring the request to the Board of County Commissioners in an informal meeting. After that, it comes to a working session with both the Board of County Commissioners and the development team and the Colorado Springs Urban Renewal Authority. Specifically for that request, that working session happened the last week of October. So we are finding ourselves here today with the formal Board of County Commissioner agenda item and request. A quick reminder, according to state statute, the El Paso County Board of County Commissioners does not have any authority over the blight designation for a specific property. We are here to look at and review the actual tax increment financing request. Those blight designations are determined by state statute. And for this project, the condition study indicated that 6 of the 11 qualifying conditions of blight were within this specific project area. A little bit of background about the project area. So this is located in County Commissioner District 3, so downtown Colorado Springs here. It's comprised of about 6 parcels, which is approximately 1.69 acres of land. And the development will include 2 phases. Phase 1, as denoted with 1 here, is specifically for a hotel development. And then phase 2 will be looking at multifamily housing. This is just a quick site plan of phase 1, so this would only include the hotel. And if we zoom out just a bit, you can see exactly where that location is. It is just a few blocks south of where we are currently located for this meeting. Here are some additional site photos. And at this time, the total development cost is estimated at about $88 million. With this request, the project is requesting 100% of the county's property tax and then 75% of our 1%. As we all know, the county sales tax is 1.23, but we never look at the 0.23 as that is a dedicated public safety tax. And at this time, I'll bring up our Chief Financial Officer, Nikki Simmons, to talk through some of the financial aspects of the request.
Good morning, Commissioners. Nikki Simmons, Chief Financial Officer. As we have gone through in the informal session and the work session, this request is requesting the 100% of our property tax and 75% of the 1% sales tax. I provided on this screen what that looks like overall for all of the entities of which the tax request is for. The Urban Renewal Authority Director will be giving an update right after me about where they're at with all the entities and the status of the requests. As always, the URA provides us a report from their contractor EPS about the impact to the county's funding over the next 25 years. But your Financial Services Department recalculates that with our full mill levy. And so we provided information to you all about what the property tax request is. Over 25 years, it's about $2.7 to $2.8 million, depending on the scenario that gets built. For an average of about $110,000 per year. The county will continue to collect the base property tax as if nothing was changed on the lot. So we continue to collect what we're already collecting, which is about $153,000 over those same 25 years. The sales tax request is currently at 75% of the county's 1% tax. And as Ms. Latier mentioned, we do not allow for our 0.23% public safety tax to be included in any TIF request. The request right now would be for about $3.2 million over the 25 years for an average of $128,000 over those same years. So overall, the request is for approximately $5.9 to $6 million. And then I always provide you all with what that is in net present value to be able to compare that to the cost of the improvements that the developer is being required to improve to cure the blight in the area. And that is about $3.4 to $3.5 million in total. This represents about 0.027% of the county's overall Tabor base over the years. And so that is the amount that, if funded in full, we would be looking at a change to our Tabor base in year 26. However, I have provided the board with a packet of different sales tax scenarios. The URA agreement, we have worked with the URA legal team as well as the development team to look at the contract and be able to kind of lower the sales tax percentages over the final years of the plan. So that way we don't have that change to our Tabor base in year 26, so that's significant. So each of the scenarios that you provided steps it down based on the overall percentage of sales tax that the board decides. And so you've been provided with scenarios all the way from 0% to the 75% request, stepped in 10% increments. And so today, what I'm asking the board to do is choose which exhibit would be attached to the contract to be able to provide that sales tax increment at the board's discretion. For the financial impacts to El Paso County, we look at the number of residents coming in. We look at the cost of services provided to those residents, provided to any businesses that will be in the new development. We consider things like cost to human services, justice services, public health, clerk and recorder, district attorney, coroner, things like that. And then so we look at the annual cost of a resident within an incorporated area. This development itself, because it actually brings in a few residential units, but significantly more revenue from the hotel as well as visitors. This development, even after we provide the TIF for property tax and a partial sales tax, would bring in net revenue to the county. Overall, for impacts, we look at the cost of public improvements. As you're aware, the URA rules or laws don't require that TIF only go to public improvements, but that has been El Paso County's approach to funding TIF agreements, is looking at the infrastructure that needs to be improved in order to make the development work and looking at public improvements. El Paso County prioritizes those public improvements based on information that we get from the development team as well as past history with the county. Those prioritized improvements total $5.99 million. The difference that you'll see in this compared to what we looked at the work session is $800,000 of public parking. The public parking overall is about $2.1 million, but some of that will be utilized for the development itself. You know, there's a hotel on top of it, but 800,000 of it we are considering as a public improvement, and so the total is just shy of $6 million. Is this yours?
All right, and as we wrap up some of the additional community impacts from this project, it's important to note that the development area will add hotel rooms and public spaces in the downtown area. It will additionally create construction jobs during the development as well as permanent jobs for the community. The phase 2 that we touched on will add some additional housing units to the housing market. Right now, the development team is projecting that those rates will be at a rate that would benefit our working residents, such as teachers, healthcare workers, government employees, and service employees. The project overall is in alignment with downtown revitalization efforts and regional tourism efforts. And then, as Ms. Simmons denoted, we will generate a significant amount of property and sales tax revenue upon the conclusion of the TIF, and that is why she is projecting that phased approach as well. And at this time, we'd love to bring up Mr. Jariah Walker, the Colorado Springs Urban Renewal Authority Director, to touch base on the status of the project and the other requests.
Thank you, Crystal, and good morning, Commissioners. Thank you so much for having us here today. Jariah Walker, for the record, Executive Director of the Colorado Springs Urban Renewal Authority. Just wanted to note a little bit about where we're at in this process. After unanimous URA board approval, we ended up going in front of the school district, got unanimous approval there, Water Conservancy District, Downtown Development Authority. The next lines that we've got after this vote will be the Pikes Peak Library District, and that'll be coming in December. And then we're looking to get this to council for final approval, most likely by their January meeting. Just to remind the commissioners, we always say this, we never want to come in front of you unless these projects need what they do. These go through a fairly robust process to make sure that there is indeed a but-for gap. And on top of that, that the project, that we feel like it's a value add for the entire community. I do want to highlight, I know sometimes there's questions on blight conditions or how we came to the conclusions that we did. I do have Sarah Dunmeyer with EPS online in case there's a question that comes up with that, with the methods that they use to go through that process. And then if there's a legal question as it relates to this contractual agreement, I have our attorney David Neville in the audience as well. With that being said, I do want to invite up Chris Jenkins of Norwood Development to start off some thoughts from the development side of things. And I think Mr. Jeff Finn might follow him as well. Thank you.
Good morning, commissioners. Thanks for having us, and appreciate the time that you and your staff have spent on this. As Jariah mentioned, I'm Chris Jenkins, and our company is Norwood. Not sure that we need slides, but we have them if they're somewhere on here if we want to pull them. But what I really wanted to talk about, because you did get to have us at work session not long ago, and not to go through all of, to respect your time and not go through all of that again, I really wanted to come and talk to you as somebody that builds across the community, all of it in El Paso County, and really talk about why are these darn tools out there? I think you know this, but from our perspective, when we build in the greenfield, in areas where there hasn't been something before, where we are extending existing infrastructure and building new infrastructure, it is so much easier and less expensive than when you come into the existing city and redevelop. The infrastructure that does have to happen, it puts us into this situation where we end up, what is a public-private partnership and why should these things be invested in that? It's a debate that we're not going to solve here today, but as somebody who builds in both the urban and suburban areas of our community, I got to tell you, it is a real lift to go through this process with the authorities and all of these taxing districts to come together to actually align vision to reinvest in our cities. And I really wish that we didn't need these tools, that we didn't have to be here at all. But the reality is that we do, and I want to use just one big example to tell you about this but-for. In 2018, we were in front of your predecessors to get the what is now called the Park Union Urban Renewal Authority passed. That was really for the beginnings of the area which is around America's Beautiful Park, the United States Olympic and Paralympic Museum, and a $60 million public improvement to the infrastructure. In that case, we have the approvals from the county, the school boards, all of the various taxing authorities in the city to do that. I get asked often, why else hasn't something happened there, even though we have this tremendous tool of urban renewal? And urban redevelopment is really difficult. It is super expensive, and it's all things when you try to go do that, comparatively speaking, to building a new development in Wolf Ranch or in Fountain in Mesa Ridge or in on the Powers Corridor. It's just different. And so we came here asking for 75% because we were sort of coached a little bit in terms of just paying attention to what is realistic. But truth be told, this project is really difficult, and we would love to be asking for 100%. We know that that is not realistic, and so we've come in with this. But the point of this is that these tools are really needed to make this project viable. And so, but for these things, as much as I don't like it, you all probably don't like it either, it's part of how we actually reinvest in our cities. And I think we can see the results of that in the projects that have been done by the Urban Renewal Authority, by the Downtown Development Authority with these tools of TIF. So really thank you for your consideration. I'll be available for any other questions, but just real briefly to just present the project a little bit of detail, I'm going to invite Jeff Finn from my office up. Thank you for your time.
Good morning, commissioners. My name is Jeff Finn, Senior Vice President at Norwood Development Group. I lead our vertical development across the community, including in downtown. Figure out how to advance this slide. So I'm going to actually flip through. This was the same presentation that we had given you at your work session, and I'm going to get to the project specifically. So in downtown, downtown itself is made up of kind of multiple quadrants and multiple neighborhoods. The neighborhood that the Moreno and Cascade URA proposal is really called the New South End. It sits in the southern portion of downtown, just slightly south of us where we're sitting today. Little bit of real brief history. I won't go way into, but this was the first annexation of the city of Colorado Springs off of the original city. In fact, some of the infrastructure that's shown in this old map actually still exist in Moreno today, rail lines and spurs. And so, point being, cities change over time, and so do the infrastructure. And uses in and throughout. And so my guess is in 100 years, this area will also look quite different. As I click through these next few slides, and you'll see that over time, restaurants, originally homes, the trolley block itself turning into ridiculously great restaurants. Not our project, but certainly something that has increased the attractiveness and the vitality of this area. And then housing. There's been a number of housing developments that have occurred in and around the area. The one in the upper left-hand or upper right-hand corner is the Mayon Cascade. That was a 178-unit project that received Downtown Development Authority property tax increment because there are other agencies out there that enter into these agreements. And so when you look at the map here, just of the area, there's been significant investment in, and nearly every one of these dots has actually participated with either the URA, the green dots, or the blue dots and the, the yellow dots with the Downtown Development Authority in investing above and beyond in the kind of the infrastructure lift that's required for these. So specifically getting into the area, we are proposing a kind of a very odd-shaped URA, and this odd shape is it has a specific reason, and one is the parcels that generate the property tax increment are parcels that are under our control as the developer, Norwood. Other properties that are not included are not in the URA, and so those will continue to be what they are. Should those property owners decide to revitalize, they will not be participating in our URA. Just to put that out there. Crystal had showed. Crystal had showed the improvements in the existing conditions. And so the degradation of infrastructure over time is real. The picture on the right is the south side of Moreno within the URA, and lacks any sort of ADA accessibility. There's no stormwater infrastructure. There's no lighting. There's almost a 30-inch separation where there is no sidewalk on the north end, and there's a El Paso County's only functioning payphone that's actually free to call 911 in case the Acorn Petroleum site, which is a functioning commercial gas station on the in the upper left-hand corner, should there be an event, an emergency event there. And so our proposal is two-pronged. One is the Catbird Hotel, 181 key, 7-story hotel that complies with the existing zoning in place for the site. And I won't go into too much detail unless you'd like, but this is a hospitality offering. It's as the way it's been described with our partners from Sage Hospitality. Is that this is a hipster extended stay. So it's for younger folks, and it's to continue to attract different varieties of hospitality in our downtown. Not everybody will stay at a Courtyard or Residence Inn. Not everybody will stay here. And so we want to continue as a community to provide in the heart of downtown different hospitality offerings. And then the second component, which I won't go into too much detail, phase 2 is an attainable housing community. Right now, we're assessing both a for-rent attainable housing community, as Crystal had offered, and we're also assessing a for-sale. I think most folks in the know are familiar with just our condo and construction defect issues that prohibit really the development of for-sale ownership in a higher density format. But we are assessing both a for rent and a for sale product to, as Miss Latier said, meet the workforce housing demand that it is very, very present, in particular in this neighborhood, as well as in our community. And then the public improvements. And so throughout this area, put this map up here just to show you that this particular segment, while a block and a half or so, this is a pretty important segment. I actually just left the Downtown Development Authority meeting where we were talking about the Elevate Downtown Plan. And in the Elevate Downtown Plan, this is a priority corridor for streetscape improvements to connect really the west side of downtown. Think about Widener Field, eventually whatever happens to the Martin Drake power plant, and connecting into the creek all the way to the east side, so past Tejon to the east and into the residential neighborhood that is called, in the new plan, Edo, East Downtown. And so specifically, we have, and again, I did not update this slide per Nikki's addition for the parking. We had a pretty robust discussion about parking and the format of parking at the work session. The public improvements that are kind of required for both phase 1, phase 2, so the hotel and the residential, total 10.8 plus 0.8. $11.6 million of public improvements. Doesn't mean that's all the public improvements that will be made. It just means the ones that are eligible through the different filters of the taxing entities. And really, I think, the punchline for what this public-private partnership with both the URA, the county, and the other taxing districts, and us as the master developer for the URA, is really what is the collective net benefit. And so I think what was talked about by staff was, specifically the direct sales tax, the sharing of whatever percentage you all decide for the 1% of what's shareable. But then there's also the additional benefit that the county does receive indirectly through PPRTA improvements, through the value of the 0.23% for public safety, this particular site does not generate a public safety deficit for the county, since it's really kind of the city's responsibility and first responder. And then the kind of that direct or that indirect and induced value, which in total is the split of where 6.13% at the 75% and $3.7 million over the 25-year period. Happy to go into any detail on this slide. So that was about as fast as I could do that. Thank you. And Chris and I and staff and Dry are also available for any questions.
Questions from commissioners? Commissioner Nelson?
Can you remind me what the 6 of the 11 blight designations that this qualified for? Or if there's, even if you just name a couple of them.
Jariah Walker, thank you for the question, Commissioner Nelson. I do believe that should be in your packet, all broken down in the condition study, but just a couple of them to highlight it. The actual infrastructure, so the deteriorating infrastructure around the actual site itself. There was a crime level component to this area as well as a just litter, component. I believe there was utility issues with this site as well. But that whole list, and of course I've got Sarah Dunmeyer with EPS online too. If you want to ask her, she can actually give you each one in great detail.
That's all right. This is good. This helps me just kind of setting the stage of the needs that this area has.
Yeah, so and your staff was kind enough to give me a list here. So deteriorated finishes, high unusual crime, signage lighting, lack of curb, lack of pavement. And then they're in this actual condition study, they documented everything with photos as well, just to make sure that it was shown what was happening on the site.
Okay, thank you. No, this sets up well, just kind of my line of thinking in how I have evaluated this project. And I really want to say thank you to the staff and you all for presenting this information to us multiple times. I think this is the 3rd time it's come in front of us. And then I've had some offline conversations with Nikki, our Chief Financial Officer, just to ask about some of the numbers. And I'm really grateful for all of that time to evaluate and just for the community to know that it has been sort of a process for me to wrap my head around what makes sense in the county's involvement in a project like this. And I know previously at the work session, I had said that I wouldn't be inclined to include the parking garage, but after the meeting, I was asking some more questions and just, for example, will the parking garage have a sign that says public parking? And so that sort of helped me reframe it and that it does make sense. And so I wanted to just put that on the record that I had previously said to not include it, but now with more understanding, I am glad that it has been incorporated in that list and that Nikki brought some updated numbers for us to evaluate. It's something that I know when I go downtown, I always am thinking about, oh, I have to find parking. And it's not something that the county would ever want to take on ourselves. And so coming back to that concept of private-public partnerships and that you all are going to be bringing improvements to the community with like the blighted designation of deteriorating infrastructure. And so I'm glad we called that out because that's where my line of thinking is that you are going to be bringing sidewalk, curb and gutter, sidewalk, stormwater, things that generally would fall to government to help provide. And yeah, as the developer, you're going to be bringing those improvements. And so it makes sense to me why we would be in this space and partnering with you all. Granted, this is within city limits. And so generally the county, it would not be over this location. And so that's where I've had to sort of think through what makes sense as far as the county's involvement. And I am going to propose to my fellow commissioners that, and I think some of them have already kind of been thinking along these lines. It's not like I'm the only one that's bringing this. They can speak for themselves, obviously, but just that we maybe look at covering 50% of the infrastructure, public improvement costs that are on the table. That seems fair to me, in that we adjust the sales tax that the county is providing over the 25 years, that it would then equate to around 50% of the costs of those public improvements that the county says we would pay for. Like, we're not going to pay for public art. That's not something the county prioritizes, is investing our tax dollars. But so that list that the county had already provided as far as utilities, the street improvements, the parking garage, those sorts of things. I feel like that makes sense for the county to be partnering in that way. I had a list here of things I wanted to touch on. I want to make sure I get them all. I guess I want to also note that the county, it doesn't exist for unincorporated county to be able to do a URA. And so just when I think about the overall impact of our residents and tax dollars, that we are investing in a space that technically is not even the county's realm. That's also why I am coming at this sort of more reserved or fiscally conservative, because my job is to consider the taxpayer and making sure we're using those dollars well. And I know that there is the argument of economic development, but in my mind, that is, for me personally, not so much a priority of how taxpayer dollars should be spent within the county. I'm focusing more on the infrastructure and the public improvements that this development is bringing. And quite honestly, I had to wrestle with the fact that this project is actually bringing in more dollars from different municipalities, from different government entities, than the total public improvements. If we look at the net present value dollars, it's $16 million that they're gaining, and I'm rounding, from these different municipalities, school district, city, library, us, whereas the public improvements lands at more around 11 to 12 million. And so that was something I had to wrestle with as well, just recognizing that the project overall is bringing in more dollars from these taxpayers. And I had to work through it. And, I just have decided to land at recognizing the infrastructure you all are bringing and the improvements you're making, and what seems fair for the county to be participating in that space. And so I know that was a really long diatribe there, but I wanted to be clear that I have given a lot of thought to this and explain my rationale of where I'm landing, that I think we should say the county is willing to cover around 50% of the public improvements, which then lands at about 60% of the sales tax, instead of the 75. So I will leave it with that.
Other commissioner comments or questions? Oh, okay, Ms. Simmons.
I just wanted to explain the chart that I have on the screen for you all, and I think Commissioner Nelson just got to it. Her last point was, I put in some scenarios together for you, as I mentioned earlier. I have those pulled up. That third column, because I've been asked the question several times, I wanted to show overall, if you give the first column in percentage of sales tax contributions, what our total TIF would cover approximately, these are all estimates, right? So Commissioner Nelson, you just mentioned covering about 50% of the public improvements that we deemed eligible. That would, about a 60% contribution for our sales tax would cover around 51%. So that's probably about as close as we can get with round numbers. And then if you, basically, if you're picking that 60%, what I would ask for is then the motion and the vote to include the Exhibit B that has those numbers of 70% from years 1 through 12, 65% from 13 to 14, et cetera. And so that's how the spreadsheet and that packet works, and we'll attach the correct Exhibit B to the contract that we're asking for approval for today.
Okay, Commissioner Nelson?
Just for context for anyone watching, the reason that we break it out over the years is due to Tabor. And this is a conversation that the commissioners have had several times now. And I'll let you explain it more.
Yeah. And commissioners, thank you. And first, I want to point out it was a great suggestion from the commission to be able to do this. The URA and the development team have been great to work with in getting this done. But it allows for that cliff effect at the end of the 25 years not to be as substantial to the county's Tabor base and be able to utilize those taxes to serve the citizens. The idea behind URA, right, is that you get this infrastructure built, and then over the 25 years, that money can be used to pay for that infrastructure. But then at year 26, all of those funds come into the government's tax base and are able to pay for government services. Well, if we're over our Tabor cap and those things can't be absorbed within, it's not able to be used towards services. So this allows it to come slowly in versus all in one lump sum.
Yeah. So this Tabor is a good thing. I appreciate that it limits the growth of government. In this case, because that growth would not be gradual over the 25 years, because we are, allowing the developer to use that funding. This just helps the county to not be negatively impacted once those funds do come in, so that we can be utilizing, if there's increased sales tax revenue, for example, or the property improvements, kind of that cliff that Nikki was talking about. So it just helps the county. And so we appreciate you all allowing us to have that gradual spread so that the county isn't negatively impacted in the future. So
I'm going to add to that. I think it's a more natural kind of what we're doing is outside of what you would normally see, right, in economic growth, where like you're pretending that economic growth is not happening, and so to be able to more naturally accommodate the economic growth in a pattern that Tabor recognizes, I think makes a lot of sense. To get to a place where, we are essentially using those funds, and so they are coming in a roundabout way and being, utilized for government purposes and infrastructure. So it makes a lot of sense for me from that perspective to just make sure that this mechanism is not, obscuring that. And so it makes a lot of sense. I do want to mention a couple of things. And I really appreciate all of the thoughtfulness that has gone into this. At 5 years into this process and going through many of these and working with our folks at the URA, I've had a lot of strong feelings about these dollars and how they're utilized over the years. And there's a lot of philosophical work in our heads. And I think that's a little bit of what Commissioner Nelson was alluding to about what the proper role is of government, what is right for taxpayers, and we wrestle with those things. We do take them very seriously, so I really appreciate putting that all on the record. These are not decisions, especially in the last few years, that we've come to lightly. We've changed our process to make it more clear and really talk through what the impacts are. But I think that there are a few things that, for the benefit of those who were not here at all those meetings, or just to put it on the record, that I think are really important. One is that over the years, I've talked a lot about what's appropriate in the proper role of government and where government should be involved. And I think Thomas Sowell's a economist that I deeply respect. And so there's a quote that I'll just share that kind of sums up my feeling on this topic when it comes to government. And that is, the first lesson of economics is scarcity. There is never enough of anything to satisfy all those who want it. And then the first lesson of politics is to disregard the first lesson of economics. And that's a real concern for me, that it's really easy for government and politicians to totally disregard what is economic reality. Free markets, I think, do a better job of regulating the economy than any government ever will be able to. We just are not smart enough to though there's some smart people here, to consider all of these factors. And so letting the economy work for itself and government staying out of that, it's what I ran on as a commissioner, and I truly believe is the best effort. However, there are, that's a good philosophy, but there are a lot of nuances to how this work gets done. And one of those is around infrastructure and how we pay for infrastructure, especially in a place where we want development to pay for its own way. And so how does that all work together in making sure that we don't become an obstacle for business? Because what I want to see is a business-friendly environment where we keep costs low and allow the business community to innovate, to create, and drive the economic growth of our community. That sometimes works and sometimes doesn't work, especially because we're not the only ones that get to make decisions. We have a state that weighs in, we have a federal government that weighs in. And so taking all of those things into account, I really do appreciate Commissioner Nelson's kind of analysis of what is appropriate for us to pay for. And I brought this up in our previous meeting that I really, if I was sitting on the city council, I might say, hey, as much tax increment as it takes to pay for all this infrastructure that we need, because we're going to have to pay for that down the road anyway. If I'm sitting on the school board, I'm saying the state's going to backfill us and probably give us back some of the dollars that they're always funneling up to Denver anyway. So there's so many different angles to look at this. But I'm in support of what Commissioner Nelson is proposing with identifying the types of public improvements that we think is appropriate for government, not the public art, not those things that are very nice, but are not things that, as very fiscally responsible, stewards of the taxpayer dollars that we think are the top priorities. And so I'm really comfortable with this and really appreciate the work from Ms. Simmons on getting us to a place that really makes sense. I think we have come a long way in how we've approached these over the years. And so this makes me feel comfortable that we are investing in infrastructure. We are being partners with our city for something that we think is beneficial overall, though maybe not quite inside of our typical lane, and not crossing over into the world of corporate subsidies that are very concerning to me, and that, I think are dubious in terms of the actual impacts to both the economy and for taxpayers. So I've said a lot. So with that, I will turn it over to Commissioner Weisong.
Thank you, Jariah, for coming. And hopefully this didn't surprise you when you see this graduated scale, because that's something we briefly talked about maybe 3-4 months ago, and it was worth investigating. And this is, I think, a very good plan. The benefit here is that it does front load some of this money to allow the most costly expenses of building the infrastructure in the first X number of years. So I'm very happy with what our finance department has put together. And I think it just is a wonderful opportunity to minimize the impact in the later years on Tabor, so that, again, as a county, we can maximize that money. And then the bonus is providing a little bit more money up front in the first few years for the development. So I'm also would approve going this direction.
Vice Chair Williams.
Yes, I want to ask a question of Jariah or Jeff. I just, I know that you come into these with a specific financing model. And I've been here for 30 years, watched our downtown go through many iterations. And in trying to do the numbers here, and I will not say I'm not a finance person and I am not a numbers person, it appears to me, and I don't know where I came up with this number at the end of the day, about 372,396 you're going to have to come up with yourself. That sounds about the right amount. So about 400,000. Is the project still viable at that amount?
That's a great question, Commissioner Williams. So we obviously don't come, unless that, I made that comment earlier, that unless there is a gap, and each of these projects are analyzed, on an individual basis, and they're all different, right? They all have different levels. This particular project, there's obviously this attainable housing component to it as well. Now, I know the county, wants to see mainly the infrastructure piece. Some taxing entities want to see that piece, right? They want to see their TIF go more towards that side of the fence. So overall, there is still a gap in this project, and it does mean that, we can't afford to, lose any of the asks that we have with the other entities. Norwood has always been a heck of a partner, for the URA to work with, and will whittle down these numbers and try to make it work. But I'll be honest, it is less than what the project initially needed to make it all pencil out. One comment I did want to make just on the scale is that, remember that the developer has to build all this before it's taxed, before anything is coming in. So really, that years 1 through 12, that's really like years 4 through 12, because those first few years, there's no tax coming in on the project. So it's kind of nil, at that point in time, because they take years to build up. And only once that tax is generated, only once those properties are assessed, does dollars start actually coming in on the project. So I wanted to throw that out too. Jeff, did you want to say anything or add anything to what I just said?
It's a great question. And I think from our perspective, to kind of go back to what Chris talked about with greenfield versus complicated, messy urban. The amount of infrastructure that we have to do known today is what it is. I don't know if it's going to be more or less, honestly. I mean, it can fluctuate. I think as you go through the filters, and I think, really through the URA statute, it says to remediate and eliminate blight. Doesn't have a public infrastructure requirement. Taxing entities, as they have kind of tried to get their arms around this, and I really appreciate how the county is thinking about this actually differently than the other taxing entities, as Chair Geithner had offered. It is that you go through the process. What happens if everybody erodes down their impact is that the quality of the infrastructure does not actually get completed to the level that people hope. Sometimes you phase back certain things. Sometimes if it's, and I'll use an example of like a streetscape. Legally, we have to provide curb, gutter, and accessible sidewalk. We all know kind of the improvements that are on Tejon Street. Those are above and beyond kind of the normal city street or the normal county street, and where the county does this kind of infrastructure. And so what ends up happening is that the quality gets eroded over time. Will the quality of the infrastructure get eroded over time because you go somewhere between 60 and the full ask? I don't think so. But if you go through the whole process and everybody erodes, yes, it will. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you. Yeah, and were you aware we were thinking of cutting back this number before this morning?
As of maybe yesterday at 4 o'clock.
Okay, so you had a fun night too. So, all right, that's the.
Well, I'm
yeah.
gonna put on the record here that actually I mentioned this at the work session, that I would ask that they consider and that I would be most comfortable with 50% of the county improvements with the addition of that public parking. So I think we did have a robust discussion.
No, we did. Sorry, the specific number I think.
Yeah, we-
of what was discussed. So
We go through a lot of numbers on these things, and this is very, very complex issue, and that's why we have 3 separate sessions on it. And I will tell you, after our last work session, I think I spent about 20 minutes with one of our county attorneys, pestering him with questions, and all of them, the answer was, no, you'd have to go to the ballot to do that, in a way to make this more beneficial to us. So I appreciate that, and we'll keep working this process out. Thank you.
thank you.
Since it was brought up, though, that if there were erosions based on other, again, that's why I want to put it on the record here that I wouldn't necessarily encourage other organizations to take the same approach that we've taken, because we each come at this from a very unique perspective. We each have very different needs and responsibilities. And so I think, as I've said, it's a completely different scenario, and it makes sense, I think, for some of those to be bigger contributions than what we do here. Of course, that's up to them. But just for the record, I'm not encouraging other organizations to take the same approach that we have here, because it's very unique to each organization and how the mechanism affects them specifically. And, I also, respectfully, and I agree with you, we like beautiful things, but we have to pay for them. And so it's all a matter of how that works in. But again, I think I look at, for example, my neighborhood and the things like the plantings and the things that make it beautiful that we all love to see in our communities, but I have to pay for those in my community. And so, it's a little specific to, okay, is this a tax function where everyone should pay? Is this an environment where there should be different contributions from different folks? Mine's through a metro district, so again, it's a taxing mechanism, but it's specific to the people who actually enjoy those benefits in my community. So I think it's just an overall really good, robust discussion about. Without, demonizing any of those things, but like who, unfortunately, sometimes we hear things like, it doesn't really matter if it gets done as long as it gets done. But the reality is there are different pots of money, and we have to work within those to be good stewards. So appreciate those comments, and I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Nelson.
Yeah, I just wanted to circle back on the comment of us reducing the dollar amount that we're providing. And if this were to take place within other entities, I just want to remind that the infrastructure, I don't think would actually be eroded. I would hope not, because you've outlined the costs for that at, we'll just estimate around $12 million. If we include the parking garage back in, it might actually even be a little bit higher than that. Whereas the amount of money that is being received by the different entities and different municipalities is $16 million. So I just wanted to make that clear, that the public improvements costs have been outlined, and that includes demolition and abatement, which I understand in an urban area is going to cost more than, out east where it's brand new. So I just wanted to kind of repeat that point. And then come back to that it's the taxpayers that are providing these dollars. And so that's something I just hold in mind very firmly, that it's the taxpayers that are helping pay for this, and we have to remember that. And are the taxpayers asking us to provide for economic development? To me, they've asked us, and why I ran and the platform I've run on is limited government. And so my opinion is that government just needs to get out of the way for business to flourish, and that free markets are able to thrive. And that if government starts giving out more money, that then just gets reflected back onto the taxpayers. And so that's why I hold so dearly this priority of it's government's role to pay for infrastructure. And that's, you know, understandable that we all drive on roads and somebody has to help manage that. But when it comes to, you know, but for we wouldn't receive these tax dollars if this didn't happen, well, that's okay because government needs to stay small, is my opinion. So just wanted to kind of clarify some of those points.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Do we have a motion?
I would move to approve Exhibit B, which states that we will grant 60% of sales tax to cover about half of the public improvements.
Second.
Ms. Simmons.
Can I clarify? So I think the motion that I need is to provide sales tax as provided on the Exhibit B of 70% from years 1 through 12, 65% from 13 to 14, 60% from 15 to 20, and et cetera, as notated on that line on the front sheet. So I do think...
Which is an effective rate of 60%.
Which is effectively, after a lot of math, effectively 60%, but it gets there a whole different way. So I think based on my discussions with the attorneys, we would need to actually put that in the record.
And then there's the property tax side too.
And the property taxes is full, but the only thing that I think the approval is the agreement as presented with this attachment B, and that covers property tax and sales tax.
Okay. So I will amend the motion and move that we approve Exhibit B, this document that outlines over the spread of the 25 years, the distribution to make sense for the Tabor impacts. And it roughly then covers 50% of the public improvement in addition to the property tax at 100%. Does that work? How I said that?
Yes, ma'am. I think that works by reference to the exhibit.
Okay, just want to be thorough, make sure we've got it all here. Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any further comments from commissioners? Okay, I will call the roll. Commissioner Wysong.
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson.
Aye.
Commissioner Applegate.
Aye.
Vice Chair Williams.
In looking at Exhibit B, I'll say aye.
And the chair votes aye. That passes 5-0. Thank you. Thank you for a very robust process, and all the commissioners for so many good questions and discussions, and working very hard with our business community and also working very hard for our taxpayers. And thank you all for your work and patience as we work through that process. Okay, item 13.
Item number 13 is department and committee reports, non-action items. 13A, quarterly sales and use tax report 2025, quarter 3, July, August, and September. Nikki Simmons, Chief Financial Officer.
Good morning, Commissioners. Nikki Simmons, Chief Financial Officer. I'll be very quick this morning for the sales and use tax report for September. As a reminder, is this on your screens? Nancy, help. Thank you. Thank you. For September, this is the most recent sales tax activity. In fact, we just got this a few days ago. This is September consumer activity that was remitted to the Department of Revenue during October, which the county receives in November. But I wanted to get this to you as quickly as possible. For September, we saw retail activity up 5.42% for the month of September. However, as you can see, September of 2024 seemed a little artificially low compared to the year before. And so some of that we think was made up in October. We've done some analysis. We also had a large audit adjustment during the month of September. The Department of Revenue must have cleared a couple of audits that they were working on. And so about 2% of this overall number has to do with audit adjustments. And so in all, we're up 0.91% in retail activity for the year, which we feel comfortable is a valid amount. Use tax on automobiles is down about 1%, but as I consistently state, that this is not a number that I put a ton of stock into, because this is just the amount collected by the clerk and recorder. It is a portion of vehicle sales, because this other stuff could come through the retail activity if you buy that vehicle locally at a car dealership. Sales tax on, or this is actually use tax on building materials, is up 36% year to date, 92% for the month of September, down about 3% for the month of October, but still much stronger than we saw in 2024. Year to date, we've received about 3.1 million, whereas only about 2.9 for the entire year of 2024, with still 2 months to go. So when you put all the components together through September, September was up 6.28%, but again, remember about 2% being audit adjustments, so about 4%. Year to date, about 1.45%. When you look at that compared to our initial budget, we still are projected to be shy of our budget by about $6 million. However, as I continuously state during my budget updates, that is not something I'm concerned with at this point. We have projected that in our year-end revenues already and used that amount to project into 2026's budget. So our projections for 26 still stay stable with the preliminary budget that we presented and with your final direction a couple of weeks ago. We are projected with other revenue sources to still come in over our overall revenue projections for general fund. So unless there's any other questions for me on sales tax, that is all I have for you this morning.
Commissioner Applegate.
So the sales trends with the taxes collected on vehicles, that's new and used when somebody purchases initially. Are we aware, maybe this would explain this trend. Are we aware of any dealerships maybe shuttering doors in the county? Did anybody close doors or no?
Sorry, I missed a word in what you were saying. Are we aware of any dealerships?
Did they close doors? Did anybody lose their business this year or no?
Not that I'm, no large dealerships. And Commissioner,
No large dealerships, okay.
to extrapolate on what I said earlier, this is only taxes collected at the clerk and recorder. So this wouldn't include any local dealerships, because those local dealerships come through with sales tax collected at the Department of Revenue.
Oh, okay.
So this is why I don't put too much stock into this report specifically, because it's not a true indicator of economic activity with vehicle sales. Because vehicle sales can happen, taxes on vehicles can happen two ways. One is if you buy a car. So when I went and bought my car locally, I bought it at a local dealership. So I paid my city, state, county taxes all to the dealership, and then the dealership remits them. And so they show up in the retail activity. But if you buy your car from private party, the clerk and recorder collects it. They assess it at the time you title it. Or if you buy it at a dealership outside the jurisdiction, so for us, for El Paso County, if say you bought your car at a Denver dealership, that Denver dealership still taxes it based on where it's going to be garaged, so at your house. So that Denver dealership would collect the state sales tax, but it wouldn't be able to collect El Paso County, City of Colorado Springs, or whatever municipality you live in at PPRTA. So then that is all collected when you go to the clerk and recorder's office. So they collect anywhere from nothing because you bought it at a local dealership that collected all of the taxes already, or they could collect 100% of it if it was a private party sale or an out-of-state sale. Then the clerk and recorder's office is tasked with collecting all of that. So this is just a portion of it, and it depends on where people bought the cars, but it doesn't truly show whether or not the taxes were paid or not. You have to combine that with the dealership taxes.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to get a couple of clarifying things, especially in light of just the discussion about a URA and how the sales tax is going over there. So I mentioned this, I think, in the last time we did one of these, that we have not seen a decline, right? This is important because I'm hearing so much around local governments about, oh, local governments are laying off or cutting certain things because there's a decline. There is no decline that we are seeing in our sales tax revenue. It's more flat. It has to do with, what was projected versus what is coming in, but it continues to be above what it has historically. So I think that's a very key piece. When I hear folks saying or the media reporting there's a decline in economic activity, it's not a decline. It's just not as rapid, right? So I think that's an important thing. A couple of things on how this relates to the county's overall budget, and I want to mention something about the public safety tax because it came up in the discussion we just had about the URA, and that the public safety tax is not considered in that URA. So that will continue to grow, right? It's not declining. It's also going to continue along these lines. And I want to make clear, because we talked about all of this in that discussion, that these sales tax dollars go in and they serve all of El Paso County, and that includes many of our programs that serve city residents as well. And to just make sure that that is clear as we were talking through that we've really changed the way that we have those conversations with URA, because we have a lot of services that cover residents across the county. That when we talk about the public safety tax, we have patrol that is outside. We've talked about a lot of this in our budget, right? We have patrol that is outside of the city in our unincorporated areas, but things like the jail in particular, and the sheriff is here and could probably give us an exact number, but I know about 70%, I think, of those folks that are in the jail are coming from our municipal partners there. And so just wanted to kind of level set on what all of sales tax means in light of that other discussion as well about what's actually happening with sales tax, how it's affecting the services that we provide, and that we actually utilize this to provide services across the county, not just outside of the municipalities, particularly with that public safety tax. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay. All right, we are on to item 14.
Item number 14 is the addendum, and there are no addendums today.
Item 15.
Item number 15 is the executive session, and there is no request for executive session.
And we are back to taking that item out of order, item 7.
Item number 7 is the proclamation recognizing Pearl Harbor Day. Bill Wysong, Commissioner, Board of County Commissioners.
Thank you very much. I'm requesting a motion for approval for the proclamation recognizing Pearl Harbor Day. Whereas 84 years have passed since Japan's surprise attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941, and only a few survivors are left to recall that shocking day. Even after they are gone, the memory of that tragic day is branded on the collective American consciousness. And whereas this attack resulted in more than 2,350 deaths, 1,178 wounded, and brought devastation to the United States Pacific Fleet and its Air Force. And whereas on this day, several American naval ships were lost, including the USS Arizona, which to this day is the final resting place of the 1,102 brave sailors and Marines entombed herein. Whereas on December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy, brought the United States out of isolation and into the Second World War to support the Allies, who had been fighting a bitter war in Europe for the 2 previous years. And whereas this sneak attack kindled the righteous fury of the United States of America, triggering our emergence as a great and benign power in the most devastating war of modern times, a global conflict against Nazism, fascism, and imperialism that ended in a resounding victory. And whereas, let us extend our gratitude and love to the 407,316 American soldiers, sailors, Marines who paid the ultimate price, and remind ourselves that their sacrifice was for a cause, not for conquest, but for a world that can enjoy the blessings of freedom for future generations. And whereas Through the untold measure paid in precious lives, the United States ultimately won the titanic struggle and achieved the final victory. And whereas the honor bell, a large ceremonial bell cast from bronze and consisting of artifacts of service members, including those who were aboard the USS Arizona on December 7th, 1941. This bell is tolled at military funerals and memorials to honor deceased veterans, and whereas through a successful community campaign, the Honor Bell Foundation, based in Colorado, has created a second honor bell in the state, dedicated exclusively for the Pikes Peak region, including the Pikes Peak National Cemetery, which will provide a final tribute to veterans in the region. Now, therefore, the Board of El Paso County Commissioners hereby recognizes December 7th, 2025 as Pearl Harbor Day in El Paso County, Colorado. Welcomes the arrival of the new honor bell for the Pikes Peak region and urges all citizens to set aside time to reflect on the profound bravery of all those who have served our country and gave their last full measure of devotion. Done this 18th day of November 2025 at Colorado Springs, Colorado, by the Board of County Commissioners of El Paso County, Colorado, Commissioners Gary Geithner, Chair, Holly Williams, Vice Chair, Corey Applegate, Lauren Nelson, and Bill Wysong, members. And this is attested to by Steve Schleicher, County Clerk and Recorder, and Marine.
Second.
Okay, that has been moved and seconded. And I want to make sure that everyone knows that we will have a ringing of the honor bell after we adjourn from this meeting. But I would ask at this time, if you are here to speak on this item, to come forward.
Good morning. My name is Johnny Drury. I'm one of the head docents at the National Museum of World War II Aviation here in Colorado Springs. And I want to thank the board on behalf of the museum for this proclamation. The National Museum of World War II Aviation is certainly a gem here in El Paso County, and we educate visitors from all over the country and from around the world to this location here in Colorado Springs. We are the second most popular visitor location in Colorado Springs and El Paso County, the first being the Garden of the Gods, and we are ranked as number 7 in the entire nation for visitors by TripAdvisor. So you really have a gem here in the country. We have 30 flyable aircraft on our 12-acre campus, and we have around 150,000 square foot under roof for our displays. It will soon be 190,000 square feet next year for all to see. In addition to all of that, we have tens of thousands of artifacts for our visitors to see and read, as well as one room dedicated to Pearl Harbor, which includes an 8-foot replica, very detailed replica of the USS Arizona. It has artifacts from that day of infamy, December 7th, 1941. And we actually have 2 pieces of the Arizona, one of which you can actually touch. We invite you to come out and see it. Also want to remind you of 2 veterans of El Paso County who were there on that fateful day. One was Donald G. Stratton, who was a member of the USS Arizona. He was on his battle station when the attack occurred. He was badly burned and injured, it took over a year to recovery, and he returned to service before World War II ended. In fact, there's a bridge built in his name over Fillmore, on Fillmore over the Interstate 25 here in town. There was another veteran who grew up just a few blocks from here. He graduated from Palmer High School. His name was Navy Petty Officer, First Class, Daniel Griffith. He heroically attempted to launch his PBY Catalina aircraft on that day, but was shot down and killed just 7 minutes before Pearl Harbor was actually attacked. He escaped the aircraft unhurt initially, was trying to swim to shore when he was strafed and killed in view of his family, his wife, and 2 kids who were watching from the shore. He's known as the first Coloradan to be killed during the Pearl Harbor attack. We invite all of you to come out and see us. We look forward to having you out there at any time. Come see our displays and take a tour with us to educate you more about World War II. In fact, might be a good time to come out on December 7th, Sunday, December 7th, upcoming. Thank you again for your proclamation, and come see us. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here today. Okay, with that, I will bring it up to commissioners for comments. Okay, I don't have you on my list, but if you want to come on down. And I'll just need you to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Karen Cantor. I'm honored to be the Honor Bell Foundation's Executive Director. The Honor Bell Foundation was created to ensure that every veteran receives final honors with dignity, respect, and gratitude. Our mission is simple: to create a community of veterans, to foster public appreciation of military service, and honor their fellow veterans with a proper final tribute. So thank you, commissioners. Thank you, Commissioner Bill Wysong. As he mentioned, we are proud to be able to announce that we have a dedicated Honor Bell here in El Paso County for use at Pikes Peak National Cemetery, the Air Force Academy Cemetery, and honor ceremonies and community events across Colorado. And as we approach Pearl Harbor Day, the meaning held within this bell becomes even more profound. Forged into its bronze are the artifacts from 12 local heroes, to include the fragment of the USS Arizona, donated by the family of Petty Officer Second Class Donald Stratton, U.S. Navy. So this moment's been years in the making and could only come to fruition through the steadfast dedication of our partners, donors, volunteers, and leaders who believed in this vision from the very beginning. And yes, we do welcome everyone to join us for this special recognition ceremony following this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, I'll bring it up here for comments. Vice Chair Williams.
Well, I'm really excited for the presentation. I just wanted to personally thank all of the veterans who I see in the audience today. Thank you for your service. Thank you for protecting our country at all times.
Commissioner Applegate.
Thank you. And of course, yeah, we thank our veterans and their service. As FDR coined the term, "Day which will live in infamy." A story that I heard a while back, and this was years ago. I heard this. I had a friend. He was a little older than me, and his uncle was actually he was stationed at Pearl Harbor when the attack happened. That morning, he was the liaison to the generals and the colonels that were either at church or on the golf course. When the attack happened, he asked to go back to his ship and man his battle station. He said, they said no. They said, you're liaison, you're driving right now for the colonels and the generals. Pick him up, take him back to the office. And he did. between that and his PTSD, the survivor's remorse he battled with that for years later on in his life. And it was frustrating for him, you know, that he wasn't there when everything happened and he wasn't able to serve with the men he was with, and that his friends, you know, died on that shore. And that was really tragic for him. And he just, for years, I mean, he had trouble. He battled with everything. So, but thank you.
Any additional comments, Commissioner Nelson?
Just thank you everyone for being here today. And it's really important to take time to reflect and especially, you know, our Thanksgiving season, take an opportunity to be grateful for the freedoms our country was founded upon and the sacrifice that those before us have made to protect those freedoms. And thank you for coming and presenting on the museum. I plan to take my kids, so I'm glad you were here today. I think, you know, living in El Paso County, sometimes we take for granted the beauty around us and the opportunities, and we just need to take time to go be a tourist some days. Even though we live here, we maybe don't go take advantage of those things that help us to remind ourselves of how wonderful it is to live in the United States. So thank you for those that sacrifice every day, to the families of our veterans and our current service members, because it's a sacrifice for them as well.
With that, I'll just add my thanks as well. Well said by my fellow commissioners. Really looking forward to seeing the ceremony after the meeting adjourns today. So thank you for your patience with moving this to the end. We did that so that we could go immediately out there. I have had the opportunity to participate in, or watch, I should say, an honor bell ceremony at our fairgrounds, but that was the traveling bell. And so that this is really just a great, unique opportunity for us to really see, I think, what this is in action here at Centennial Hall, and be able to participate in that. So thank you for being here today, all of you, and we look forward to that. And with that, I will turn it over to Commissioner Wysong for any final comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Today we do have this special privilege. We will be celebrating a unique opportunity with the second bronze bell in the country. You will hear more about the bell and witness this outside with the tolling of this honor bell for those that have given their lives serving the greatest nation on earth, but not by might, but by proclaiming the vision, opportunity, and freedom to become whomever we desire to be and succeed. No other nation on earth has what we have, which has been granted to us by our founding fathers and ordained by God. Please enjoy and experience this very special and unique privilege after we conclude this meeting. Thank you.
Okay, with that, I think we are ready for a vote, beginning with Commissioner Wysong.
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson?
Aye.
Commissioner Applegate?
Aye.
Vice Chair Williams?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That passes 5-0. With that, we have come to the end of this agenda. This meeting is adjourned.